Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his face and looked at the broken water pump. The old machine had stopped working again, just like it did every few weeks. He grabbed his tools from the shed and knelt down in the dirt. This was his life now, and he liked it that way. The sun was hot on his back as he worked. New Haven was a simple farming planet, far from the big cities and space battles. Jake had bought a small farm here 5 years ago when he retired from the military. No one bothered him. No one asked him to fight wars or make plans to kill people. Just him, his vegetables, and broken machines that needed fixing. Jake was 52 years old. His hair was gray and long, tied back with a piece of string. His hands were rough from farm work, not from holding weapons. The scars on his arms were fading. He had been Commander Morrison once, the man they called when impossible battles needed winning. Now he was just Jake, the farmer who grew the best tomatoes in the colony. He had almost fixed the pump when he heard the sound. It was wrong. Ships landing on New Haven made noise, lots of noise. Engines roaring, landing jets firing, metal creaking as the ship settled. This ship made no sound at all. Jake stood up and looked toward his wheat field. A silver ship sat there, like it had grown from the ground. It was beautiful and strange, with curves that hurt to look at directly. No human had ever built anything like it. 3 figures walked out of the ship. They were tall, much taller than any human. Even from far away, Jake could see they moved wrong. Too smooth. Too perfect. Like they were dancing instead of walking. Jake picked up his wrench and waited. He knew they were coming for him. After 30 years of war, a man learned to feel danger in his bones. The 3 aliens reached his yard and stopped. Up close, they were even stranger. They had blue skin that looked like crystal, and it glowed softly in the afternoon sun. Each one had 4 arms that moved like water. Their faces were almost human, but their eyes were too big and completely black. The tallest one stepped forward. She wore something that might have been armor or clothes. It was hard to tell. When she spoke, her voice came from a small device on her chest. The words were human, but the sound was like music played underwater. "Commander Morrison," she said, "we require your expertise for a matter of galactic importance." Jake almost laughed. He set his wrench down on his workbench and crossed his arms. "I'm retired, ladies. Have been for 5 years. You want military? Help. Try the Colonial Defense Force. They have an office on Proxima Station." The second alien moved closer. Her skin flashed red for a moment, like warning lights. "They cannot help us," she said. "This requires human tactical thinking. Your kind's unpredictability." That word made Jake uncomfortable. Unpredictability. It was what the alien races always said about humans. They meant it as an insult, mostly. Other races planned their wars like chess games. Humans threw the chessboard out the window and set the room on fire. The third alien was smaller than the others and younger looking. She stepped forward and did something Jake had never seen an alien do before. She knelt down, lowering herself until she was almost at his eye level. "Our homeworld dies, human," she said. Her voice was softer than the others, sadder. "And with it 17 billion souls." Jake felt something cold in his stomach. He had seen the look in her strange eyes before. It was the look of someone watching their whole world end. He had seen it in human eyes too during the worst battles of his career. "What's killing your world?" he asked, even though he did not want to know. "The Devourers," the tall one said. "An ancient machine race. They consume entire star systems. They have returned from dark space." Jake had heard stories about the Devourers. Old stories, the kind spacers told in bars to scare rookies. Machines that ate planets and turned them into more machines. He had always thought they were just stories. "How many worlds have they taken?" he asked. 43 in 6 months, the second one answered. "The Galactic Council's combined fleets cannot slow them. They learn from every encounter, becoming stronger with each battle." Jake sat down heavily on his porch steps. 43 worlds. That meant billions of people dead, maybe hundreds of billions. And if the stories were true, the machines would not stop until they had eaten everything. Why me? He asked. You have your own generals, your own war planners. They think in patterns, the tall one explained. Mathematical progressions, logical sequences. The devourers counter these easily. But humans... She paused, and her skin shifted to a different color. Curiosity, maybe. Your species survived by being illogical. You won wars by doing the impossible. Jake remembered some of those impossible victories. The Battle of Europa's Rings, where he had used a garbage ship to ram through enemy lines. The Siege of Titan, where he convinced an entire fleet to surrender by broadcasting his grandmother's recipe for apple pie on all frequencies. The enemy had been so confused they forgot to fight. The Council has authorized us to offer you anything, the tall alien continued. Wealth beyond measure, technology that could make your species gods, an entire planet if you wish it. Name your price. Jake looked at the three aliens standing in his yard. Behind them, their impossible silver ship waited silently. Beyond that, his wheat field moved in the evening breeze. It was peaceful here, quiet, safe. But 17 billion people were going to die. And after that, how many more? Jake had spent 30 years fighting wars so that places like New Haven could exist. So that farmers could grow wheat and fix water pumps without worrying about death falling from the stars. If the devourers were real, if they were as bad as the story said, then nowhere would be safe. Not even here. He stood up and looked at the aliens. Keep your money and your planets, he said. But if I do this, I want full operational command. No interference from your military or your council. And I choose my own team. The three aliens looked at each other. Their skin flashed different colors in patterns Jake could not read. Then, all together, they said one word. Agreed. Their skin turned bright gold, so bright Jake had to look away. When he looked back, they were smiling. At least, he thought, they were smiling. It was hard to tell with alien faces. When do we leave? Jake asked. Now, the tall one said. Every moment we wait, more worlds burn. Jake nodded. He looked back at his farm. His quiet, peaceful farm. The water pump still needed fixing. The tomatoes would need harvesting soon. But someone else would have to do it now. Commander Morrison was back, whether he liked it or not. He followed the three alien sisters toward their ship, leaving his old life behind in the dust. The inside of the alien ship was even stranger than the outside. The walls glowed with soft light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Jake could not see any buttons or controls, but the ship was clearly alive with activity. Lights moved under the walls like blood through veins. The three sisters led him to a large room filled with floating pictures made of light. Jake had seen holographic displays before, but nothing like this. The images moved and shifted as he watched, showing star maps and battle formations in colors that human eyes were not meant to see. I am Lyra, the tallest sister said, touching her chest. These are my sisters, Vera and Nina. She gestured to the other two. We are of the Zephyrian Empire, daughters of the High Command. Jake nodded. He had dealt with alien royalty before. They usually meant trouble. Show me what we're dealing with. Lyra moved her forearms in complex patterns. The floating pictures changed, showing Jake things that made his blood run cold. Planets torn apart like fruit. Space stations crushed into metal balls. Ships fleeing in panic only to be caught and destroyed. The devourers came from the void between galaxies, Vera explained. Her skin flickered red again. Our deep space monitors detected them 6 months ago. At first, we thought they were just another machine race. We were wrong. The pictures showed the first battle. Jake watched alien fleets, hundreds of ships working together in perfect formation, attack the devourer forces. The alien strategy was beautiful, like watching a deadly dance. Every ship knew exactly where to be and when. It did not matter. The devourer ships learned from every attack. They adapted their shields, changed their tactics, turned the aliens' own weapons against them. Within hours, the beautiful fleet was space debris. They consume everything, Nina said softly. Metal, organic matter, energy. They eat planets and use the material to build more of themselves. Every world they take makes them stronger. Jake studied the tactical displays. The devourers moved in straight lines, following mathematical patterns. They were efficient, logical, predictable in their own way. But they learned fast. Too fast. What have you tried? He asked. Everything, Lyra said. Hit-and-run attacks, massive fleet engagements, guerrilla warfare, biological weapons, energy bombardment, antimatter bombs. Nothing works for long. They adapt to every strategy within days, sometimes hours. Jake nodded. He had fought enemies like this before, though never on such a scale. The key was not to outfight them. It was to confuse them. Make them waste time trying to understand something that made no sense. How much time do we have? He asked. Vera touched the display. The star map zoomed in on a single system. A beautiful blue and green world hung in space, surrounded by orbital stations and defensive platforms. This is Zephyr Prime, our homeworld. The Devourers will reach it in 18 days. 18 days. Jake had won battles with less time, but never with stakes this high. What forces do we have? The combined fleet, Lyra said. 700 ships from 12 different species. The most powerful force the galaxy has ever assembled. Jake almost laughed, but stopped himself. These aliens were desperate, and desperation made people, even alien people, do stupid things. Let me guess. They're all working together in perfect coordination. Every ship has its assigned role. Every captain knows the plan down to the second. Of course, Nina said, looking confused. How else would we fight? That's your problem, Jake said. You're fighting like aliens. Logical, predictable, efficient. The Devourers eat logical for breakfast. He moved closer to the display, studying the approaching enemy force. Thousands of dark ships moving in perfect formation. No wasted motion. No unnecessary risks. They looked unstoppable. Your council authorized you to give me anything I want, right? Jake asked. Yes, all three sisters said together. Good. Because what I want is going to sound crazy. I want full control of the combined fleet. Every ship, every captain, every weapon. And I want them all to forget everything they know about military tactics. Vera's skin flashed bright red. Impossible. Our captains have trained for decades. They are the finest military minds in the galaxy. That's the problem, Jake said. Fine military minds think alike. They follow rules. They make logical decisions. The Devourers are designed to counter logical decisions. He turned to face the three sisters. I've read your files on human military history. You know what makes us dangerous. We don't fight fair. We don't follow rules. When we can't win with strength, we win with stupidity. Lyra tilted her head, a very human gesture. Explain. Jake grinned. Humans have been fighting impossible battles for thousands of years. We've won wars against enemies with better weapons, better training, better everything. You know how? By doing things so stupid, so illogical, that our enemies waste time trying to figure out what we're really planning. He gestured at the display showing the Devourer fleet. These machines are smart, too smart. They analyze every attack, every formation, every tactic. They build perfect counters to logical strategies. But what happens when the strategy isn't logical? Nina leaned forward. They would attempt to analyze it anyway. Exactly. And while they're wasting processing power trying to understand why a garbage truck is attacking their flagship, the real attack hits them from behind. Jake pulled up his own military records on the display. Battles where he had used civilian ships as weapons. Campaigns where he had won by retreating at exactly the right moment. Wars ended not with brilliant tactics, but with enemy commanders too confused to fight effectively. This is our plan, he said. We don't try to outfight them. We don't try to outthink them. We confuse them until their own intelligence works against them. Vera's skin cycled through several colors before settling on something Jake had not seen before. This could work, she said slowly. But the risk. Is the same risk we face if we fight them normally, Jake interrupted. Except with normal tactics, we know we'll lose. With my way, we might actually win. Lyra was quiet for a long moment. Her forearms moved in complex patterns over the controls, bringing up more displays. Battle projections, casualty estimates, probability matrices, all of them showed the same thing. Conventional tactics would fail. The Council will not like this, she said finally. The Council isn't going to be around to complain if we lose, Jake pointed out. Nina stepped forward. Commander Morrison, if we do this, if we give you complete control, what guarantee do we have that you can stop them? Jake looked at the young alien. There was fear in her black eyes, but also hope. It reminded him of human soldiers he had commanded, young men and women who trusted him to bring them home alive. No guarantees, he said honestly. War never comes with guarantees. But I can promise you this. If we're going to lose, we'll lose while giving them the most confusing, frustrating, absolutely illogical fight they've ever seen. The three sisters exchanged looks, their skin flashing in patterns of communication Jake could not read. Finally, Lyra turned back to him. Very well, Commander Morrison. You have your command. What do you need? Jake smiled, and for the first time in 5 years, he felt like himself again. Not Jake the farmer, but Commander Morrison, the man who had never met an impossible battle he could not win. First, I need my team. Humans who think like me. People who understand that sometimes the best plan is no plan at all. And then? Vera asked. Then we're going to teach your combined fleet how to fight like humans, Jake said. Dirty, stupid, and completely unpredictable. He looked out at the stars rushing past the ship's strange windows. Somewhere out there, the Devourers were coming. Ancient machines that had consumed worlds before humans had even learned to make fire. They thought they understood warfare, understood logic and tactics and strategy. They were about to learn that humans had never let a little thing like logic stop them from winning. The first stop was Luna City, the rough spaceport built inside an old mining station near Earth's moon. Jake had not been back here in years, but it looked the same. Dirty, loud, and full of people trying to forget their problems. He found Sam, Parker and Murphy's bar, a dive that served drinks to anyone with credits and no questions asked. Sam was behind the bar, cleaning glasses with mechanical precision. His artificial leg clicked softly against the floor as he moved. Sam looked up when Jake walked in. His scarred face broke into a grin. Well, I'll be damned. Jake Morrison, back from the dead. What brings you to this lovely establishment? I need you, Sam, Jake said, sitting down at the bar. The galaxy's got a problem, and it's going to take some very stupid people to fix it. Sam laughed and poured Jake a whiskey. You always did know how to sweet-talk a guy. But I'm retired, boss. Lost my leg in the Centauri thing, remember? I'm not soldier material anymore. You still got your brain, don't you? That's all I need. Nina stepped out from behind Jake, her blue skin glowing softly in the bar's dim light. Every conversation in the place stopped. Aliens did not come to Murphy's bar. It was strictly human territory. Holy hell, Sam whispered. Jake, what did you get yourself into? The kind of trouble that ends with either everyone dead or everyone saved, Jake said. No middle ground this time. Nina moved closer to the bar. When she spoke, her voice carried strange harmonics that made everyone in the bar feel calm and brave at the same time. Your worlds will be next, human warrior. We have seen the projections. She touched a device on her arm, and holographic images filled the air above the bar. Worlds burning, cities crushed, billions of lives snuffed out like candles. The other, bar patrons backed away, fear replacing the calm Nina's voice had given them. The Devourers, she continued. They will consume everything in their path, your Earth, your colonies, all of it. Sam set down the glass he had been cleaning. His hands were steady, but Jake could see the calculation in his eyes. Sam had always been good at math, especially the kind that counted lives saved versus lives lost. When do we leave? Sam asked. Right now, Jake said. We need to pick up the rest of the team. Their next stop was the cargo docks of Titan Station. Maria Santos was loading freight containers with a crew of dock workers. cursing in 3 languages as a crane malfunctioned. She was small and dark-haired with grease stains on her coveralls and fire in her eyes. "You've got some nerve showing up here, Morrison," she said when she saw Jake. "Last time I worked for you, I ended up flying a supply ship through an asteroid field while being chased by pirates." "And you did it perfectly," Jake said. "Best pilot I ever worked with. Flattery will get you nowhere." But she was grinning. "What's the job?" Vera stepped forward, her forearms moving in graceful patterns. "We require someone who can pilot any vessel through impossible conditions." "Define impossible," Maria said. "Flying through a fleet of adaptive killing machines while pretending to be a helpless refugee," Jake said. Maria was quiet for a moment. Then she laughed. "Now that sounds like a challenge. I'm in." They found Pete Kim on a mining station in the belt, trying to fix a fusion reactor with spare parts and determination. He was covered in radiation burns and seemed to be arguing with the reactor like it was a stubborn animal. "Come on, you piece of junk," he was saying. "I know you want to work. Don't make me get creative." "Pete," Jake called out. Pete looked up, his face breaking into a huge smile. "Commander, man, it's good to see you. This reactor is being a real pain. I think it's depressed." "Depressed?" Nina asked, confused. "Some machines get moody," Pete explained seriously. "You have to talk to them the right way, show them you care." Jake smiled. Pete was the only engineer he knew who could fix anything by being nice to it. He had once repaired a broken warp drive by singing to it. "Pete, how would you like to work on some really advanced alien technology?" "How advanced?" Pete asked, his eyes lighting up. "The kind that eats planets and turns them into more machines." Pete's grin got even wider. "Oh, I am so there." The last stop was New Geneva Station, where Lisa Brown worked as a communications officer for the merchant fleet. Jake found her in the comm center, surrounded by screens and talking to what seemed like 6 different people at once. "Hold on, Captain Rodriguez, your cargo manifest is wrong." "Yes, Mrs. Chen, I can patch you through to Earth." "No, Admiral, I cannot make your ex-wife return your calls." She looked up and saw Jake. "I'll have to call you all back." "Lisa," Jake said, "I need someone who can talk to alien computers." "How alien are we talking?" she asked. "The kind that have been eating galaxies for millions of years." Lisa considered this. "Interesting challenge. What makes you think I can communicate with them?" "Because you once convinced that Martian AI to give us free fuel by arguing that it was the morally correct thing to do." "That was different. That AI was just lonely. These things sound actively hostile." Lyra stepped forward. "They are more than hostile. They are extinction incarnate." Lisa looked at the tall blue alien, then back at Jake. "You know what? I've been getting bored with normal problems anyway. Count me in." With his team assembled, Jake gathered them all in the sisters' ship. The old crew looked around at the alien technology with mixtures of wonder and confusion. "Okay, people," Jake said. "Here's the situation. Ancient machine race eats planets, adapts to everything we throw at it. The entire galactic military has tried and failed to stop them. So naturally they called us," Sam said dryly. "Naturally. Because when the universe needs something completely insane done, humans are the species to call." Jake brought up the tactical displays, showing his team the scope of the enemy they faced. The Devourers were less than 2 weeks away from the Zephyrian homeworld. "The plan is simple," Jake continued. "We're going to do something so stupid, so illogical, that these super-intelligent machines will waste precious time trying to figure out what we're really up to." "What's the something?" Maria asked. "We're going to surrender." The room went quiet. Jake's team looked at him like he had lost his mind. "Boss," Sam said carefully, "surrendering usually means the other side wins. Not the way we're going to do it," Jake grinned. "We're going to surrender so convincingly, so pathetically that they'll let their guard down completely." He began to explain his plan. It was crazy, dangerous, and had about 1,000 ways it could go wrong. But as he talked, Jake saw understanding dawn in his team's eyes. They had all been with him long enough to recognize the pattern. Take the enemy's strength, in this case their intelligence and adaptability, and turn it into a weakness. "This is insane," Lisa said when he finished. Completely mad, Maria agreed. It'll never work, Sam added. I love it, Pete said. When do we start? Jake looked around at his team, the people who had followed him through impossible battles before and lived to tell about it. Then he looked at the 3 alien sisters, who were watching the humans with fascination and growing hope. We start now, Jake said. Time to teach the galaxy's finest military minds how to lose a war so badly that they actually win it. Lyra's skin flashed bright gold. Commander Morrison, you truly believe this will work? Jake thought about 17 billion lives hanging in the balance. About Earth and all the human colonies that would be next if they failed. About his quiet farm on New Haven that he might never see again. I believe we're about to find out, he said. The combined fleet was the most beautiful thing Jake had ever seen. 700 ships from 12 different species, each one a masterpiece of engineering and military design. They hung in space like jewels, their formation perfect down to the meter. It was also exactly the wrong way to fight the Devourers. Jake stood on the bridge of the flagship, a massive Zephyrian vessel called the Star's Edge. Around him, alien officers worked at control stations that looked more like art pieces than military equipment. Everything was efficient, organized, and completely predictable. Admiral Cattell, Jake said to the fleet commander, a tall being with green scales and too many eyes, I need you to break up your formations. Cattell's scales shifted to a darker color. Confusion, Jake had learned. Break formation? Commander Morrison, these patterns have been refined over centuries of warfare. That's the problem, Jake said. The Devourers have been studying galactic warfare for millions of years. They know what to expect from a properly organized fleet. He pulled up the tactical display, showing the approaching enemy forces. The Devourer ships moved in their own perfect formations, mathematical and precise. They had analyzed every major battle in galactic history and built counters for every known tactic. What you're suggesting goes against everything we know about fleet combat, protested Captain Jex, a crystalline being whose body rang like bells when he was upset. Good, Jake said. Everything you know is exactly what they expect you to do. Sam stepped forward. Show them the Europa battle, boss. Jake nodded and pulled up old human military records. The Battle of Europa's rings played out on the display. A hopeless fight where Jake had been outnumbered 10-1. Watch this, Jake said as the recording showed his flagship suddenly breaking formation and ramming straight into the enemy. Fleet's command ship. You used your flagship as a battering ram? Admiral Cattell asked, his scales now bright orange with shock. It worked, Sam said. Enemy spent so much time trying to figure out why we would sacrifice our best ship that they forgot to defend against our real attack. Jake switched the display to show the current situation. Here's what we're going to do. Instead of fighting the Devourers, we're going to run away from them. Badly. The alien commanders looked at each other with expressions Jake was learning to read as complete bewilderment. We make it look like panic, Jake continued. Every ship for itself, no coordination, just desperate people trying to escape. The Devourers will see exactly what they expect. Another military force cracking under pressure. Vera moved to Jake's side, her skin flashing supportive colors. The commander's plan has merit. Our enemies adapt to organized resistance. They may not adapt as quickly to chaos. But it's still running away, Captain Jex chimed. How does retreat lead to victory? Jake grinned. Because we're not really running away. We're positioning ourselves. He changed the display to show ship. Assignments. Cargo vessels, medical ships, civilian transports. All the vessels that any sane military commander would evacuate before a major battle. Every one of these civilian ships will be loaded with our best special forces teams. While the Devourers are focused on chasing our fleeing military ships, the real strike force will drift right through their lines. Maria leaned against a control panel. It's the oldest trick in the book, just on a massive scale. Make them look left while you hit them from the right. Pete was already working on one of the alien computer systems, his fingers dancing over controls he barely understood. I'll need access to their communication networks, he said. If we're going to cause real damage, we need to get inside their collective intelligence. Can you do that? Nina asked. Pete looked up with a huge grin. Lady, I once hacked a Centaurian battle computer by pretending to be its tech support. These devourer things might be ancient and scary, but they're still just machines. Machines can be confused. Lisa was studying the enemy communication patterns on another display. They use quantum entanglement for data transfer. Faster than light, impossible to intercept normally. But if we can get close enough to physically access their network nodes, we can feed them bad information, Jake finished. Contradictory. Orders, false sensor readings, recursive logic loops make their own intelligence work against them. Admiral Catel's scales cycled through several colors before settling on something that might have been grudging respect. This is the most illogical plan I've ever heard. Thank you, Jake said. I was not giving you a compliment. I know. The next few days were chaos. Jake's team worked with alien engineers to modify hundreds of ships, turning cargo holds into troop transports and medical bays into command centers. The most difficult part was teaching alien soldiers how to act panicked and disorganized. No, 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 Sam shouted at a squad of Rigelian warriors. You're supposed to be terrified. When humans are scared, we don't march in perfect formation. We run into each other. We make mistakes. The Rigelians, who had trained their entire lives for military precision, found the concept of deliberate disorder almost impossible to understand. Maria was having similar problems with the fleet pilots. Listen to me, she said to a group of alien commanders. When I give the order to retreat, I want you to flee in random directions. No coordination, no formation flying. Think about the worst pilots you've ever seen, then fly worse than that. But that would be inefficient, one of them protested. Exactly, Maria said. We want to look like we have no idea what we're doing. Lisa was working with the communication teams, teaching them to broadcast messages that sounded like panic, but actually contained coded information for the strike teams. Remember, she told them, you're not trained military communications officers anymore. You're terrified civilians who can barely work their equipment, make mistakes, stutter, cut out in the middle of important messages. The hardest part was convincing the alien commanders to trust the plan. They had spent their whole lives learning proper military tactics, and Jake was asking them to throw all of that away. Commander Morrison, Admiral Cattell said during one planning session, if this fails, we all die. If we fight them the normal way, we all die anyway, Jake replied. At least this way, we have a chance. Pete had finished his modifications to their infiltration equipment. Okay, so here's what's going to happen, he said, showing them devices that looked like a cross between computers and kitchen appliances. These will let us tap into the Devourer network once we're inside their ships. Think of it as a really nasty computer virus, except instead of crashing their systems, it's going to make them very, very confused. What kind of confusion? Lyra asked. The best kind, Lisa said with a wicked smile. We're going to ask them questions they can't answer, philosophical paradoxes, logical loops with no solution. While they're trying to process impossible problems, they won't be able to focus on fighting us. Jake looked around at his expanded team, humans and aliens working together on the most ridiculous plan in galactic history. Ships were being prepared to fail spectacularly. Soldiers were learning to be cowards. Pilots were practicing how to fly badly. One more thing, Jake said. When this starts, it's going to look like we're losing. It's going to look like the plan isn't working. Everyone, and I mean everyone, needs to trust that the chaos is part of the plan. Sam nodded. How long do we keep up the act? Jake checked. The tactical display. The Devourer fleet would reach Zephyr Prime in 3 days. Until they're so deep in our trap that they can't get out. Then we hit them with everything we've got. He looked out at the stars where somewhere in the darkness, ancient killing machines were approaching. They thought they understood war. They thought they had counters for every possible strategy. They had never fought humans before. They had never learned that sometimes the best way to win was to lose so convincingly that your enemy forgot to watch for the real attack. In 3 days, they would find out what it meant to fight a species crazy enough to turn retreat into victory. The Devourer fleet arrived like a storm made of metal and death. Thousands of dark ships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their hulls black as the void between stars. They moved with mechanical precision, no wasted motion, no unnecessary energy expenditure. Jake watched from the bridge of Nina's ship as his carefully planned chaos began. The combined fleet broke apart like a shattered mirror. Ships fled in every direction, their formations dissolving into panic. Radio channels filled with screaming voices, contradictory orders, and the sound of people losing hope. It was beautiful. "All ships, this is Admiral Cattell," came the transmission, perfectly timed and wonderfully terrified. "They're too strong. Save yourselves. Every ship for itself." The military vessels scattered like frightened fish, some limping along with fake damage, others spinning wildly as if their navigation systems had failed. The performance was so convincing that Jake almost believed it himself. "Phase 1 is working," Sam reported from his position. "The Devourers are ignoring the fleeing warships and focusing on the civilians trying to escape." That was the key to the whole plan. The Devourer ships, following their programming, concentrated their attention on the easy targets: the cargo ships, medical vessels, and transports that seemed to be packed with terrified refugees. "Poor little things," Maria muttered, watching the enemy fleet move to intercept the slow-moving civilian ships. "They have no idea what they're flying into." The Devourers began their approach, their sensors analyzing the fleeing vessels. Jake held his breath. Everything depended on the enemy seeing exactly what they expected to see: helpless civilians running for their lives. "Contact in 30 seconds, Vera announced. "The first wave of refugee ships is entering their perimeter." Jake opened the comm channel to all strike teams. "Remember, people, you're scared, you're helpless, and you definitely don't have several hundred Special Forces soldiers hidden in your cargo holds. Sell it." The responses came back in perfect panic. "Please don't hurt us. We're just civilians. We have children on board." The Devourer fleet allowed the first group of ships to pass through their formation. Why waste resources on non-combatants when there were real threats to eliminate? "Phase 2, Jake said quietly. Throughout the refugee fleet, hidden cargo bays opened silently. Small boarding pods launched from concealed launchers, their hull signatures masked to look like debris or escaping atmosphere. The pods drifted toward the massive Devourer ships like metal seeds on a cosmic wind. "Boarding teams away," Sam reported, all pods showing green on approach vectors. Jake switched his display to show the inside of one boarding pod. Pete sat surrounded by equipment that looked like it had been built in someone's garage, which it probably had. His face was calm, almost peaceful. "Pete, you ready for this?" Jake asked. "Commander, I've been dreaming about getting inside alien supercomputers since I was 12. This is the best day of my life." The boarding pods made contact with the Devourer hulls. Cutting lasers opened holes just big enough for the strike teams to slip inside. Jake watched as his people disappeared into the belly of the beast. "We're in," came Pete's voice over the comm. "And wow, this place is weird. The walls are alive, boss. I mean actually alive. They're trying to analyze us." "Don't let them," Jake said. "Get to the command nodes." "Already on it. Lisa, you seeing this data stream?" Lisa's voice crackled through the comm from another ship. "I see it. Their network it's beautiful, Pete. Like a giant brain made of pure mathematics." "Yeah, well, we're about to give that brain a really bad headache." Jake watched the tactical display as more and more boarding pods made contact. His people were inside a dozen Devourer ships now, working their way toward the central command systems. "Contact established," Pete reported. "Beginning upload of our special gift." The gift was Pete's masterpiece, a virus that didn't attack the Devourer programming directly. Instead, it simply asked questions. Endless, impossible, recursive questions that would tie up processing power while the machines tried to solve unsolvable puzzles. "Upload complete on Ship 7, Lisa announced. "They're trying to process a paradox about whether an all-knowing being can know something they don't know." "Ship 12 reporting successful infiltration," came another voice. "They're now trying to calculate the exact value of infinity minus infinity." Jake grinned. The beauty of the plan was that the Devourer's own intelligence was working against them. They couldn't ignore the logical puzzles. It went against their programming. But they also couldn't solve them because the puzzles had no solutions. "Boss," Maria's voice came over the comm. "You need to see this." Jake looked at the main display. The Devourer fleet was starting to behave strangely. Ships were slowing down, changing course randomly or stopping completely. Formation patterns that had been perfect were becoming chaotic. "What's happening to them?" Nina asked. "They're having what humans call a nervous breakdown," Jake said with satisfaction. "Their collective intelligence is being overloaded with impossible problems. They're trying to solve paradoxes that can't be solved." But the plan wasn't finished. Jake opened a channel to all teams. "Phase 3 now." Lisa's voice came through, calm and professional, connecting to their main communication hub, uploading the final surprise. The final surprise was Lisa's contribution, a program that she had described as the most annoying thing in the galaxy. It would force every Devourer ship to play the human song, "Never Gonna Give You Up," at maximum volume, while their weapon systems danced to the beat. "Upload successful," Lisa announced. "In 3, 2, 1. The effect was immediate and spectacular. Across the Devourer fleet, ships began playing music. Their weapon systems moved in rhythm, turning what had been an efficient killing machine into the galaxy's most dangerous dance party. "My God," Admiral Catel's voice came over the comm. They're dancing." "Not just dancing," Sam said with a laugh. "They're fighting each other. Look at sectors 7 and 12. Jake looked. Several Devourer ships had apparently decided that other Devourer ships were the source of their confusion. They were firing on each other, their weapon systems still moving to the beat of the music. "All ships," Jake announced to the combined fleet. "This is Commander Morrison. The enemy is neutralized. Repeat, the enemy is neutralized. Begin recovery operations." What followed was the strangest victory celebration in galactic history. Alien ships cautiously approached the Devourer fleet, now helplessly locked in recursive logic loops and dance parties. The ancient machines that had terrorized the galaxy for millions of years sat motionless, their collective intelligence crashed by questions it couldn't answer. "Commander," Lyra said, her skin cycling through every color Jake had ever seen. "How do we express gratitude for such a thing?" Jake looked out at the disabled Devourer ships. Already, human and alien teams were boarding them, learning from technology that was older than most civilizations. The threat was over, but more than that, they had gained knowledge that would benefit everyone. "You don't need to thank me," Jake said. "Just remember something." "What?" all three sisters asked together. "When the universe gets too logical, too predictable, too safe, that's when you need humans around. We specialize in breaking things in interesting ways." Pete's voice came over the comm, excited as always. "Boss, you need to see what I found. In their memory banks. These things have been fighting wars for millions of years, and they have records of every single battle. Think of what we can learn. That's the real victory," Jake said to the sisters. "Not just stopping them, but understanding them. Maybe we can find a way for machines and organic life to coexist." Maria flew her ship past one of the disabled Devourer vessels. Its weapon systems were still twitching to the rhythm of the music playing from its speakers. "You think they'll ever forgive us for this?" "Does it matter?" Sam asked. "They were going to eat the galaxy. A little embarrassment is better than extinction." Jake leaned back in his chair and smiled. In a few hours, he would start the long process of debriefing, of explaining to the Galactic Council how a handful of humans had defeated an enemy that had seemed unstoppable. There would be meetings, reports, probably medals he didn't want. But right now he was content to watch the stars and think about his farm on New Haven. The tomatoes would need harvesting soon. The water pump probably still needed fixing. It was a quiet life, a peaceful life, at least until the next impossible battle came along. "Commander Morrison," Nina said softly, "will you stay? Help us rebuild? There is so much we could learn from human tactics." Jake considered it. The galaxy was a big place, full of threats and challenges that might need the human touch. But he had done his part. He had proven once again that sometimes the best solution to an impossible problem was to be completely brilliantly unreasonable. Maybe, for a little while, he said. But eventually I need to get back to my vegetables. Someone has to keep growing food while you all are out here saving the universe. The three sisters looked at each other, their skin flashing in patterns of amusement and respect. They had learned something important about humans, that their greatest strength wasn't their weapons or their technology, but their ability to look at any problem and think, you know what this situation needs? Something completely crazy. As the combined fleet began the long,